Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, and today we are checking in on KNF and JADAM. We ask if magnetizing irrigation water works, and we take a question about too much mulch on garlic. Is it a thing? So let's do it. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and feeling well and slowly finishing up your weeks with a bang. We here in Kentucky in the U.S., and frankly all up and down the South, are facing a potentially wild winter storm coming this weekend, so that's fun. They're saying a potential foot of snow, which here in Kentucky will be massively disruptive, though at least a little bit fun. It's been mostly, usually in the winter, just cold and wet and muddy, so I'll take snow, at least a little bit of it, then it can kind of go away so I can farm. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Started my peppers, though, this week, and here in a couple weeks, we will get the tomatoes going, which should be fun. Now, keep in mind, as I like to say on the show, that I do my starts based on my situation, my context, so don't be feeling like if I'm starting something that you're not ready to start, you're not behind. For people, even in my same region here in 6B, there are still months left to do these things and still have a great summer crop. In the production world, though, you've kind of got to push things a little bit, and I don't even push it that hard compared to other growers. I have friends in the area or in slightly warmer areas who start their tomatoes, etc., around Christmas. I'm a little lazier than that, so yeah. Anyway, you got time. All right, as is the Thursday tradition, we're going to take a few Patreon questions and see where that leads us. Our first Patreon question du jour comes to us from Patrick Daubert, who writes, quote, "Perhaps a silly question, but have you covered JADAM, J-A-D-A-M, in previous episodes? Have you ever experienced using or making liquid fertilizer and microbial solutions? Is JADAM a common practice for the market farmer? There appears to be supporting evidence, but as with many farming topics, much of it is anecdotal. JADAM, perhaps like solar power, just feels good doing it. We make JMS and JLF and enjoy the process. Feels like we're connecting to the garden. Curious about its use on the larger scale, such as your farm. Thanks," end quote. All right, so we haven't done any full-on KNF or JADAM episodes that I can remember, but both definitely come up from time to time. JADAM is sort of an offshoot of Korean natural farming, sometimes just called natural farming, which is why I'm including that here. But there are a lot of similarities as well, chief among them simply being that the idea behind these practices is to get the nutrition and pest protection that you need from the farm itself, from things that you can already find pretty much just right around you. They're very simple amendments and preparations made from stuff you already have. And I've said this before, but one of the amendments that I use every year on a farm, especially for our potatoes, is the JADAM microorganism solution, or JMS, a simple microbial solution that takes a pinch of forest soil, some compost in my version of it, and a baked potato, then lets that sit overnight and ferment in room temperatures. The result is a very interesting, lightly beerish smelling liquid that I spread out over the fields, usually more of like a soil drench than a foliar spray. I avoid a lot of microbial foliar sprays for food safety reasons. On the KNF front, though, I know you didn't mention that one specifically. I have made a lot of those preps, and the only two I still really use are the water-soluble calcium, and I will do parts of the IMO collection, just like lazier versions. I found parts of the IMO collection was just a little bit too time-consuming and labor-consuming for me for right now, so for myself, I simply soak grain in water and mix it with a pinch of forest soil and allow that to compost instead of doing the whole rice collection box thing. I described this a little bit in the Living Soil Handbook, in fact, if you want to check that out, but I essentially just take that resulting material and add it to my compost pile to inoculate it, because it does make an excellent compost. So I do like that, but I don't go too hard on any of these ideas. I think a lot of growers I know are kind of that same way on the professional market garden side. For me, it's all about finding the ones that work for us in our context, while also doing everything else we know to be great for soil and ecological health, keeping the soil covered as much as possible, planted as much as possible, with the diversity of plants, and disturbed as little as you possibly can in your context. All of those things are really important. Studies-wise, there's not a ton to support KNF or JADAM, at least not in English, but that doesn't mean it's not supported. It's just really hard to study something that will differ so significantly based on who made it, where, what time of year, with what ingredients. To your point about it just feeling good to do, though, there is something to be said about that. I think if it feels good and you like the results, keep doing it. Absolutely, I say try a few. If it works for you, keep it up. If it doesn't, that's okay too. You will almost certainly glean something from these practices that you you can take on, and who knows, maybe some certain pest pressure could be resolved looking into the JADAM books when other approaches have come up short. Nature is dynamic that way. There's no one right way to do any of this. These are great and frankly pretty fun tools to have in the toolbox, so it's worth exploring. Of course, all of these practices have to be carried out, like I said, with all the other basic soil practices as well, to have some chance to thrive. So no one can assume that JADAM or KNF alone will fix, broken systems. I think of these amendments more like seasoning, two great ingredients. Anyway, I don't know if I have a ton to add there beyond that, but let me know what you all think, and if you all employ these methods, what has worked for you, what hasn't. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, magnets and irrigation water is a very attractive concept, but does it work? BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Ohio Earth Food. So you got your soil tested or need your soil tested, it's time to contact Ohio Earth Food. Since 1972, they have been growers' trusted source for organic soil amendments to apply before you plant to prevent those deficiency symptoms that limit production. Their knowledgeable staff have all been a part of certified organic operations and can help you choose the best products for your soil and deliver or ship them right to your farm. With locations in Northwest Ohio and just north of Madison, Wisconsin, Ohio Earth Food wants to be your partner for organic inputs. Don't count on luck this year. Start your seeds in the Seed Catapult potting soil and put their Revita fertilizers in your beds, and rest assured that your plants will have all the nutrients, stimulants, and energy for whatever comes their way. Feed your soil and let your soil feed the plants. Visit them at ohioearthfood.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Kate Maudsley. I don't know if you have to do that but maybe, from Leroyd Street, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, thanks for answering my question last month about how to tell when your soil is dry enough to work on. Very helpful. You're welcome. I have another question you may have forgotten about from back in May. It was about a magnet I'd ordered to deal with extremely hard water and salinity. I've got to say the magnet has worked like a dream. I don't have any issues with my water and even water lettuce leaves without issue. It took a long time to leach all of the minerals out of my beds, so I no longer have a white crust on my beds and can grow in even the worst affected bed now. I don't understand how it works, but I'm very happy it does. Anyway, I don't need you to answer the original question anymore, but I would love to understand how it works. I read words like ions and my brain melts, but you have an accessible way of explaining the scientific stuff. No worries if it's too time consuming though. I'll just keep telling people that it's a magic magnet." End quote. All right, so this is an interesting and fun topic, and Patreon members, if I ever miss one of your questions, just let me know and I'll try to get back to it. It definitely happens. My apologies. All right, so I should say from the outset, I did not know a lot about this subject. When I started looking into this particular question and looking at the research on the efficacy of magnetized irrigation, it turns out it is a little bit all over the place. On the one hand, there's evidence out there of magnetized irrigation water helping to better leach salts. And on the other hand, it depends on a lot on the power of the magnet, how it was implemented, where, etc. For instance, the magnets that are often used are 3,000 to 4,000 Gauss or Gauss. To put that in perspective, fridge magnets are roughly 50 to 100. So these are quite powerful magnets, and the sizes of the field itself varies as well, with some of the studies that show benefits do so when the water is actually run through the magnetic fields twice. So anyway, that said, there are some benefits that have been demonstrated, such as making the salts in soil more soluble, thus easier to leach and reducing the stress on the plants of the roots. There is a lot that is not known about using magnets in irrigation, and it's admittedly not something that, up until now, like I said, I've put a ton of energy into understanding, but some of the research has certainly piqued my interest. For one, the salt leaching ability of magnetized irrigation water could be helpful to people, helping them to utilize more brackish water and or leach their salt contaminated areas. Another area where it has shown some promise is in descaling. Descaling being when certain minerals clog irrigation lines. Basically, instead of using a chemical agent to reduce the issue of buildup, magnetic fields change the structure of water in a way that makes the minerals more soluble and thus less clingy. There is also some potential in magnets being able to help with heavy metal contamination. One study found, quote, specifically magnetized water irrigation reduced the water transport rate in soil and improved the water storage capacity of the soil. Further, it enhanced the leaching of soil salt, reduced the salt accumulation rate of the soil, and changed the composition and proportion of soil base ions just being like usable nutrients to plants. Furthermore, it improved the photosynthetic rate, single fruit weight, yield, productivity, and quality of the jujube, which is fun, end quote. So all of that is pretty interesting, but that also doesn't mean that the specific magnets on the market will do the same thing necessarily. The methodology used to come to these conclusions is quite specific, so I would fear someone buying a random magnet online and not getting the same results. It sounds like KD, whichever one that they used, has had a good experience, so that's positive. That's some good anecdotal evidence there. I will also say I don't see a lot of immediate cause for concern in using them. Like, I don't see wildly negative effects in the literature, though anyone can feel free to correct me there. However, there is a lot more literature on this than I had expected, so I have not gone through all of it, nor have I really sat down and critically reviewed, the methodology or anything like that. So in short, if it's working for you, great, and maybe not a surprise. There is at least a little bit of there, but just proceed cautiously, listeners. And if you can find, an independent study that employs the magnet that you want to purchase, start by reading through that and just seeing what the effects were and what the methodology was. Like, did they run it through that same magnetic field twice before putting it on the field? That's kind of an important factor. Anyway, did I do the trick? Did I give you a reasonable overview of magnets and irrigation? I want to be clear that this is my first time reviewing the literature on magnetized irrigation. So more than anything, I'm just kind of sharing what I found, but there is a lot I didn't get to. So I hope others will feel obliged to fill in the blanks. And as always, feel free to let me know what I came up short on or what I got wrong. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will talk too much mulch. Much being notably one letter off of the word mulch. Coincidence? We'll see. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by High Mowing Organic Seeds. High Mowing Organic Seeds is celebrating their 30th anniversary with 48 fabulous new varieties for 2026. Highlights include downy mildew-resistant cucumbers, a poppy that looks like cotton candy, and 12 new tomato varieties. High Mowing offers more than 750 varieties of certified organic, non-GMO vegetables, flowers, herbs, and cover crops, all trialed for optimal performance in organic growing systems. High Mowing has the professional quality seeds and supportive grower reps to get you from seed to harvest. Visit highmowingseeds.com to request a catalog and use code 26NOTILL, all caps, for 10% off your order of $100 or more. That's highmowingseeds.com. All right, back to the show. All right, our third and final question of the day from our Patreon members is from Brian at Snowflake Farm, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, I was checking in on my first year garlic patch today and I'm a little concerned I may have overdone the mulch. I have hardneck, softneck, and some elephant garlic and nuts planted and mulched with 3 or 4 inches of hay, or at least what I thought would end up being 3 or 4 inches once it rained a time or two. I'm starting to see some shoots coming up. Not many. In fact, I thought it was an errant blade of grass to start with, but when I got to digging around, I found most of the garlic bulbs have sprouted, but some of the hay I thought looked a little matted, and there was also a little bit of mold under there as well. What does too much hay mulch look like? How thick should it be after it has settled? And how much is too much for garlic to push through? Thanks again, as always." End quote. All right, so this question came in last month, and I told Brian not to panic. Not having much garlic up in December is not the worst thing in the world, and frankly, having it too far up in December is not always desired, especially in colder climates. As I told Brian, some varieties are simply slower than others. Give it a bit more time and see what happens. Now, there is a point at which hay is too thick even for garlic, but that point is probably not a few inches thick. The exception, however, is that if you just used the thick leaves of the hay, like you pull off a leaf of hay of a bale or something when you're about to spread it, if you did not shake that apart as you distributed it, then it's really, really hard for garlic to get through that. So how we mulch is that we take each leaf of hay, each of those little sections of hay as it comes off the bale, and shake it over the bed to a depth of around 8 to 10 fluffy inches. That will pack down pretty good after it rains, but not so much that the garlic can't get through it. You're probably in the 2 to 3 inches packed down range. Garlic is pretty strong in that sense. Now, however, if you were just laying full flat leaves of hay on the bed, in that case, it will probably struggle to get through that tightly wound material. If some of you did do that to your hay, then just go back over it and shake the hay apart. It's probably not too late. The garlic clove you planted has a lot of energy, and it's, you know, a very patient plant, so it should eventually make its way through, so long as you give it the chance. And by that, I mean, you loosened that hay up a little bit. Of course, if you don't see any garlic by the late winter, then something is likely amiss. In that situation, I would dig down to make sure the cloves were still sprouting and intact in a few spots, and if so, I wouldn't sweat it too much. The colder your climate, the slower the garlic will be to pierce the surface, which will be especially true if you planted them late. So anyway, I hope that did the trick to ease your concerns a little bit.
Hey, Brian here at Snowflake Farm. Do an update on the winter garlic. I was concerned about the mulch being too thick, but Jesse said, nope, you're good. And guess what? As usual, he is right.
Garlic is a tough lad. It will get through a lot of cover. The only time I've seen garlic really struggle was with full leaves of hay that we rolled out, like a round bale that we just kind of pushed out over a patch, and we didn't fluff it up quite enough, and it struggled to get through that a little bit. And another time with fresh leaves that were just a little bit too thick, and then we put hay over top of that, so it was just too matted for those garlic plants to really poke through. So we did lose a little bit of yield there. For the most part, though, so long as you fluffed up the mulch when you laid it down, or fluffed it up later when you realized you didn't fluff it up, the garlic will find a way. Anyway, nerdy day of questions here today. I enjoyed that, but I think that's it for this Thursday. Don't forget, No-Till Growers is officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com. I should say the hat I'm wearing today is from my friend Jane of the Composter podcast. You can buy her merch if you like that show. It is a great show. You should check it out. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of January, you get a shout out in the show. So big shout outs today to... We don't have any new signups or bump ups from yesterday, so we will have to wait until tomorrow to see what it is in that building that Gary just found up the creek, in that dry creek. It'll be a big day tomorrow. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you then. Bye.
Go.